Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 65 of the Playoff Push Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Dobbins, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, voice of the Frederick Keys, Gus Baylow. How we doing?
Jack, thanks for having me on. It's great to hear from you and great to catch up again. Belated Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. And we're recording this the that weird time between Christmas and New Year's. So it's but yeah, Happy Holidays. Hope you had a nice Christmas and a good time with family, hopefully.
Yeah, I bet. It was a great Christmas here. Great Christmas from you, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is the 28th of December. It's a very weird day, like in that little middle ground where some people are traveling, some people aren't. So
Yeah.
figured it'd be a good time to get you on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Happy to do it and looking forward to our conversation. So it's great to see you doing all the things you're doing with this podcast and also just at Penn State. You're at a great school, you're at a really good place. So happy to see you're doing well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. You're a young guy. I mean, you're already calling affiliated baseball just out of college. Can you just, open the floor to you for a little bit. Can you just talk about your sports broadcasting journey from like where it started through college and then
Yeah.
now to draft league and affiliated ball?
Yeah, so my career has sort of been a little bit of everything. I'm originally born and raised in Massachusetts. It's actually where I'm recording this right now. I grew up about 45 minutes outside of Boston, a small suburb, and really kind of knew sports and loved sports when I was a kid. Very quickly realized that I was not going to be playing sports. My playing career ended at the age of 6 because I couldn't even finish the year in like the town baseball league as a 6-year-old with my own dad as one of the coaches. So I knew that my playing career was cut short very quickly. But I knew I wanted to stay in sports somehow and kind of found that broadcasting might be a path as a 8-year-old kid, not knowing anything, other than just watching Red Sox games on TV as a 7-year-old and all that. So, once I kind of grew up and realized what the business was all about, I did a lot of stuff at my high school. I went to a really good high school that obviously had a lot of great programs for sports and kind of got my feet wet in broadcasting as a high school age, kid. And then went on to college. I went to the University of Kansas where I majored in, journalism and did a lot of broadcasting for KU. And then quickly found the Frederick job during my senior year at Kansas and found the job when the Keys were in the draft league at the time. Obviously the Keys, we announced at August 1 of this year that we're moving into affiliated baseball, which obviously is an exciting thing for us. So because of that, we moved into a different, sort of phase there. So it's exciting, and that, so I got hired as in the draft league system, and, I had no clue that the Keys were even thinking about getting affiliated again until I kind of got there and realized like what the ultimate goal is. Because I heard of the Keys before, but I wasn't too familiar with them when I first got there, and then quickly kind of learned a lot about them as I sort of got into the position. But yeah, so I've been with the Keys now. I work for the team full time. I do broadcast. I'm the broadcast manager, and then the media correspondent. So helping out the media and folks like you and other folks who are kind of coming to games and stuff like that. And then also I during the off season work with our corporate sales team to attract new sponsors to come and work with us, advertise with us, all that. So really good mix. I love what I do as a young sports broadcaster. This is kind of the dream I'm living in. But it's a lot of fun too. A lot of work, but a lot of fun, and I'm really happy about my career.
That senior year when you started looking for jobs and the Frederick Keys job popped up, was it like a scramble or was it a simple process? You just like locked in on it immediately? What was that like?
It was a hard process. So before that, what I would say is, the internships really helped. I did internships during my time at college. For 2 summers, worked in the Northwoods League, which is a Midwest-based collegiate league that a lot of really good players go to. I actually worked for a team called the Green Bay Rockers, who my last year there they actually won their first ever title my last year there, which was pretty cool. And then they actually won again this year. So shout out to the Rockers for winning the title again. But anyways, I did that job first as an intern for a couple summers, and then my senior year, I spent a lot of time just talking to people, trying to pick brains of different broadcasters, trying to figure out what it is I want to do. So I was on the phone, felt like almost every day, just with a different broadcaster or doing a job interview. I applied for a bunch of jobs, but it just I quickly found the Frederick job. I think it was after the new year of 2024. I found the Frederick job and kind of realized that, hey, this might be a path that I can go down. And, after interviewing the first round, had a really good conversation with the Keys first time, and then they had wanted a second interview a couple weeks later, and that's always a good sign if you get another interview. Then from there, we had another really good conversation that I actually felt, like it was a really cool opportunity. And then, when I got the offer, it was great. So I got hired I was actually an assistant my first year. I wasn't actually technically a full-time staff member, and then we negotiated a deal to kind of bring me on full time. So it was great, really good experience with the Keys. Very appreciative that I get to be with Frederick, and the people every day at the office are just great to work with. But it was a hard process. It took a lot of time, took months and months of waiting and just trying to find the right job. And you have some rejections along the way, which is totally part of it. These jobs are hard to get because only one person can get it. It's not like maybe some other jobs where you can have a couple different people. This is the job to get. So it was good, but it was a hard fought process for sure. And happy when it was over.
What was that jump like from college to, pro broadcasting? I still consider the draft league to be pro ball in a way. How was that jump in terms of equipment and in terms of, preparedness for games?
Yeah, no, really good question. When I was it's funny, when I was doing a lot of the stuff at college, because one of the big things I did was actually I was the voice of KU baseball, of Kansas baseball for 2 seasons. And my responsibilities were, to be honest, they were pretty easy. All I had to do was make sure I showed up on time, do my job, call the games, travel the team. Everything is lined up for me. So I know exactly where I have to be. I know what time the buses are leaving. I know what time this is happening. This is happening. All I have to do is, don't cause a scene and show up on time and do your job, and that was it. With the Frederick job, like I have a lot more responsibilities, and I had to learn very quickly how to manage that. I think my time in the Northwoods definitely helped because I kind of got that experience, broadcasting and also just managing the other responsibilities of working in minor league baseball. But, with the Frederick job, I really have kind of the green light to do what I want on the air in terms of how I can structure the broadcast. I mean, that the Keys have really, as long as I don't say anything, crazy on the air or anything like that, I have a really good system where I know exactly what I want to do. And this year will be different just because we're moving to affiliated ball, so the broadcast will be a little different next year, I can already tell you. But I think that you know, the jump was a big jump for sure. It was a big jump going from a college level where you kind of have a lot of people, helping you out and all that kind of stuff. Where in Frederick, yes, you still have those people, but it's really upon you to really get after it. And you really have to sort of do your job and, making sure you show up every day to do what you can do. So it was a big jump. And it was a really, really cool experience to go through. And, it's funny, I graduated college on a Sunday was our commencement ceremony. 36 hours later, I'm saying goodbye, packing up my life and driving 20 hours to Frederick, which was, that was certainly a whirlwind and a very emotional in that sense, just moving and totally changing your life. And then 3 weeks from there, I was calling the first game of the year. So that was a crazy few weeks, just getting used to everything and really getting thrown into the fire. I can say this year I had a lot more time to prep for the season, which certainly helped. And obviously this year, we have a little less time, but still enough time to hopefully prep for the season. So
Obviously, you haven't called a minor league game yet, but what do you think will be the difference between the draft league and now being affiliated ball in terms of broadcast? I assume much less than the Kansas to draft league
yeah,
jump.
it will be a change. I will say we had a great run in the draft league, and a ton of respect for the draft league. First off, it's a great league. I think there's a lot of good teams that are in that league. I actually think it's great that Aberdeen's still playing in that league. The Ironbirds. I know we're going a little off topic, but that's a first class organization. We actually work a lot with them too because we're owned by the same corporation, which is Attain Partners and Attain Sports. So we do a lot of collaboration with them, and obviously they are very familiar with a lot of the teams in that league because they were a part of the New York Penn League back in the day. But the draft league's a great league, and the difference obviously is the amount of games. You're going from it was 80 games. Now we're playing 132. That's a big difference. That's 50 more games. Your first game is Good Friday. Easter weekend is your first game, and you go through September. And that's 5 months. It's a long time. You're starting before school gets out. You're starting before a lot of things get out. So it's different because it's not a summer ball league as much as like the draft league where it's June through September. Obviously, and we had a bunch of kids that we kind of had moving around and that stuff. So, but I don't think I think on the road, the broadcast will be largely the same just because we're still going to be kind of doing the same stuff. Obviously, I think the players we're getting are obviously different just because it's affiliated players, but we had a lot of good players through the draft league. We did. I mean, we had some guys that went pretty high. This year we had a sixth round guy and Bruin Agabayani who was pretty good that ended up going to play for I think he had the Twins, I believe
That's
is
what I think as
I think
well.
it was the Twins. Yeah, we had a bunch of draftees this year. We had nine from the first half, which was the most I've seen.
Whew.
So we had a bunch of guys. So Bruin was great, and we had a bunch of kids. But yeah, it'll be different. I think the biggest thing is just the games, and also they're all 6 game series. So you play the same team 6 times in a row, then you have an off day. The same team 6 times in a row. That will be a change too because you're going to be playing a lot of the same guys for a whole week. And you're like, how much can you tell about them in that week? And coming up with new things to tell on the air. So that remains to be seen about how I can do it. Because again, I haven't done it yet. So well, hopefully it's a challenge and I'm looking forward to it and I'm excited.
How did you find your signature broadcasting style over time, and how do you think you'll be able to, bend it with this new minor league broadcasting way?
Really good question. Broadcast styles are really important. I always tell people, be yourself on the air because the best people are the ones who are themselves and always are looking to improve. I'm very fortunate that I have a good relationship with Kevin Harlan, who is one of the best broadcasters in the business. I know I just saw your head roll back, Jack, in disbelief, but
Oh,
I've known Kevin for a couple years. He went to Kansas too, actually. He went to Kansas, so we
yeah, that's
kind
so
of knew
cool.
from there. But Kevin actually, Kevin Harlan told me this, and keep in mind, this is a guy who is the National Sportscaster of the Year. Like, this is one of the best guys in the business. And he told me that he's still looking for ways to improve, and he's the National Sportscaster of the Year. So if he can figure out ways to improve, we all can figure out ways to improve. So I always challenge myself, how can I get better every broadcast? How can I get better? How can I do the things that I need to do to perform at a high level? And a large part of that is being yourself in the air, not changing styles, not changing things because it's still baseball at the end of the day. It's still a game. It's still 9 innings, 27 outs. It's still the same game. Yes, the players are different. Yes, you're going to different places, and that is different. But at the end of the day, it's still baseball. And that's something that I think we have to realize. Like, it's still baseball. It's still really good baseball. And you have to show up every night. You have to make sure you're bringing it. And that's taking care of yourself. That's making sure you're prepared and doing the things you have to do to stay on top of it. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to is accepting that challenge.
When it comes to moving into affiliated ball, with all these new players and this whole new system of, being with the Baltimore Orioles, how are you going to really work with the players constantly coming up and down and new guys coming in each year? Because I feel like with Frederick in the draft league, it was a new team every year, and you were just looking toward, or every half, and you were just looking towards that. But in the minor leagues, at all time, a guy can go up, a guy can go down.
Yeah, well, I think that in the draft league, as you probably know, the rosters change actually a lot. Our roster in the first half changed a ton, and that largely is because you have guys going to the draft combine. You have, obviously we had the Team Canada games last year, and that was certainly, we had a bunch of guys for that. So our roster actually changed a ton, in the first half. I think it felt like it changed pretty much every day. I was always talking with Sean Campbell, was the president of the league, about it, and we always had some good conversations. And Sean's doing a great job in the league too. He's doing a great job, and a lot of respect for Sean and him and the staff at MLB do with the league. But I would say too, it's we kind of in this day and age, I don't know how it's going to work to be honest with you yet, and that's because I just haven't done it yet. I would say that managing a lot of the difference will be is that obviously the Orioles will take care of a lot of that stuff for us because it's their players. The way it is now in the minor league setup, minor league baseball is different than it was when the Keys were last affiliated, just from a lot of different reasons. And the Orioles will take care of a lot of that. So we're kind of working. The biggest thing will be making sure that we're working with the folks in the Orioles. I've already had some really good conversations with their communications team about a lot of things, and we've had a really good talk about how can we be, how can we work together and all that stuff. So it's going to be very important for us to work collaboratively, but largely, working with the different players, it will be different because the Orioles are going to be the ones that will be dealing with it. Whereas in the draft league, it would be kind of up to us. It would be up to obviously our coaches, but they would tell us like, hey, the coaches don't really know who's going to be coming in all the time. So it would be up to, myself or obviously some of our other staff members to figure out that as too. So it's I probably remains to be seen how exactly it's going to work, but I regardless, we're looking forward to having the players, come through and having those guys, the guys come through and seeing some really good prospects. The Orioles have a really good farm system, and there are some very talented players that I think will be coming through here pretty soon.
What would be some advice that you'd give to younger kids in high school and college?
At the end of the day, I would say just, be yourself, and enjoy the process. I would say, for someone like you and anyone else who's kind of going through it, and I might have told you this too when we met in Trenton a handful of times, like, it's important to understand the grind of minor league baseball. And, anyone who goes through it, it's a grind. Even the draft league, it's a grind. I mean, it's a lot of games. We were fortunate. I got to travel with the team, and it's 80 games. But even like, Mike Warren, voice of the Thunder, he does all their games, and Mike is someone I have a ton of respect for and got to know really well, and I hope he's doing well too. That's the thing. Like, he is, he and everyone in minor league baseball can relate. Like, it's a grind. You have to show up every day, and you have to put in the work to get where you want. But you also have to enjoy it. Like, what I always say is like we're working in sports for a living. Like we get to work in an industry that people enjoy going to. Like people we always have great fans because the Keys love it. Like the Keys love going to the games. It's like the Thunder. Like the Thunder fans, they love going to Thunder games because it's an avenue where they can enjoy time as a family and enjoy each other's company and watch a really good ball game. And obviously, in any of the teams in the draft league and in minor league baseball, what we're all trying to do is give our fans, players, coaches, and everyone a great experience to be part of the community. And that's really what we are. Like we're very much a community-based organization. The Keys are a very much a community-based kind of team. And that's what we've been on long before I got there. So, I would say that enjoying the process and embracing the grind is important. And also just getting the reps. I mean, reps are important. Whether it's doing an internship at a team like a Northwoods League or some other leagues around the country that offer internships. Obviously, closer to Penn State, you have the NECBL in New England, you have the Futures League, you have the New York, New York. I think there's like New York Collegiate Baseball League or something like that. There's a lot of really good leagues, and if I butchered the last league, I apologize, but there's a lot of leagues that you can get opportunities in, and getting those reps are very important because that's ultimately how you're going to get better is doing the reps.
Perfect. Any final words here before we sign off?
No, I really appreciate the time and I'm glad to hear you're doing well and I'm definitely excited to see what we can you're continuing to do your career. This podcast has been great to see every week and I'm just thankful we got to be on and I will say getting a little football talk. I think
Ooh,
Penn State made a great hire in Matt Campbell
I like it too.
as a Kansas fan, watching going against Iowa State all the years, it was very hard to dislike Matt Campbell. He's a great coach and a really good guy. It was always because he took that program and really built it. And Penn State obviously has a ton of resources and ways to help him. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Matt Campbell does at Penn State. I think he's going to do a great job at Penn
I'm
State.
very excited. I think it's a really good hire. We just got to see how it pans out. We got to make sure to keep, the guys on our roster, like the freshmen and the
Yeah,
sophomores,
and what a
and
win
we can
they
be good
had
again
in
by my
the
senior year.
Yeah, what a win they had in the Pinstripe Bowl. Was it yesterday? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a big win they had, and I'm glad they're keeping the interim guy, Terry Smith, right?
Yeah, I forget what his role exactly is, but we're keeping him.
That's great, and I think he's great. I think he's done a great job of, putting taking the team, which was kind of a tough spot just with everything going on, to take them to a bowl win against Clemson. Like that's a Clemson team that was surging, as well. So, but yeah, really appreciate the time, man. Glad to hear you're doing well, and appreciate the opportunity.
Sounds good. Episode 65 of the Playoff Push podcast in the books. I'm your host, Jack Dobbins, and have a great rest of your day.